Hello, everyone. I hope you are all doing well by the grace of God. So, my name is Emmanuel Hamanyo, and yes, we are having a new program on Truth on Air where we will handle lots of alleged Bible contradictions that people bring up from the Bible. Okay, and so this program will be held every week, and then we hope that you would pay attention to us so that by the end of everything, we all will know that indeed the Bible which we have does not in any way contradict itself, but rather is the absolute truth that God wants us to know. And so this week we will tackle our first alleged Bible contradiction, that is the death of Judas. Right, so we see two accounts in the Bible concerning the death of Judas, which we find in Matthew chapter 27, verse 5 to 7, and also in Acts chapter 1, verse 18. So, this is what we'll be tackling this week, and we hope you have a very lovely time with us. So, yes, this is still Truth on Air, as you can see, and if you've not subscribed, please kindly subscribe, like, and share the video. All right, so we'll start with today's contradiction, right, or alleged contradiction, which is reconciling the death of Judas. Yes, Judas Iscariot, one of the apostles. So in today's discussion, I'll give a bit of history, we'll do some linguistics and also forensic analysis to tackle this alleged contradiction. So let's dive deep and let's begin. So, yes, as I said, some people claim that Matthew and Luke, Matthew, the author of the book of Matthew, and also Luke, the author of the book of Acts, also gave completely conflicting accounts. So, people claim the accounts they gave concerning the death of Judas Iscariot are actually contradictory, and that is what we are looking at today. Now, I would like us to take the readings from the two verses so that we can actually know what the Bible is saying. Now, in Matthew chapter 27, verse 5 to 7, says, "Then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed, and went and hanged himself. But the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, 'It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, because they are the price of blood.' And they consulted together and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Therefore, that field has been called the field of blood to this day." So this is the account given in Matthew chapter 27, verse 5 to 8, concerning how Judas regretted um, selling out Christ or betraying Christ, how he brought back the money to the priest, and also how he died, that he hanging himself according to Matthew, and also the reason why that place was called the field of blood. So this is the account that Matthew gave in Matthew chapter 27. Let's also consider the account in Acts, that's Acts chapter 1, verse 18. Says, "Now this man purchased a field with the wages of iniquity, and falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his entrails gushed out." So what this verse is also saying is that Judas purchased the field with the wages of iniquity. That's with the money which he got from betraying Jesus Christ. Okay, or we can say blood money in quotes. Yeah, it's blood money actually. And also continues to describe how he died, that he falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his entrails, all the things in his stomach. So that is the account according to Acts chapter 1, verse 18. It says, "The field became known to everyone in Jerusalem as Akeldama," meaning the field of blood. So now these are the two accounts. Let's see whether or not these passages actually contradict as people claim. So the first thing, let's look at the method of his death, how he died. Now Matthew is saying he hanged himself, and Acts is also saying he fell headlong. Okay. Now, these two accounts simply do not contradict each other, but they also describe a different stage, or each verse describes a different stage of a sequence of events. That was how Judas died. Now, Matthew says he hanged himself, and Acts is also saying later his body fell headlong and he burst, and all his entrails came out. Now, we don't really know if indeed it was maybe a rope which he hanged himself with or not. But the Bible said he actually hung himself, right? And now when we consider the place, the location of this field, that's the potter's field or Akildama as known to the people over there, we see something very interesting there. Now, first of all, let's see how forensics help us to understand this. Now, the area described, which is Akil Honim Valley, okay, and
lies the
this place
strangely
has some
verdant
very
yet infamous
nice
Hinnom
or
Valley,
characteristics
where some might
concerning
prefer to
its
omit the
geographical
events which
landscape,
transpired
temperatures,
there.
and all that.
The
So we
valley
know
has
that
witnessed
this
some of the
place, the
worst
Honim
moments of
Valley, where
biblical
the
history.
field of blood
It was
Akildama
here,
is
on these
situated,
steep
is
slopes, that
actually
the
a place
Judean
where
kings
temperatures are
sacrificed
very,
their
very high.
children to
In
Baal.
fact, they are very hot temperatures. It's
Much
known as an
later,
arid
Judas
region because
Iscariot,
temperatures
one of
are very
Jesus'
high
12
over there.
disciples,
And yet, a
betrayed
corpse or a dead body hanging over there in such temperatures will rapidly undergo postmortem decay, right? That's how the body will decay or decompose after death. Now, in such a very hot region, this process will go on very fast, or the body will decay very rapidly. And we know that once someone dies, all the cells stop working, they stop producing energy, and then enzymes are released and they start to digest or break down the cell tissues and the body tissues. Now, when this happens, it actually builds up some gases, right? We have methane, hydrogen sulfide, and all that. So all these gases actually build up in the body and causes the body to bloat. Inframa ebim, and the body bloats. Okay. Now, when the body bloats, now the layers of muscle actually become thin. And the description given to this Honim Valley, where Akildama is located geographically, is made of limestones,
quarry,
rocks. Okay. And
a
so
wall
once
from
this body
Dokia,
falls from
that
that
one,
height
and that
or
one,
that position
and
which
Hazaka
Judas's
wall
body
is
was
that
hanging,
one.
and it falls, definitely, since
Are
the
you okay?
layers of the body have become thin due to the bloating, and also since the place is very rocky, it is not deniable. It's actually a fact that the body will burst, just as the Bible describes it. So there is no contradiction actually. The first passage we read in Matthew basically describes how Judas died, which is hanging himself. And also the account in Acts tells us the aftermath of his death, or the aftermath of he hanging himself. That is, he died as Matthew recorded, his body began to bloat, and then he fell from that height which he hanged himself, and his body actually burst open. So these two passages actually are not contradicting each other, but are rather complementing themselves. Okay, so Matthew basically describes how he died, and Acts is also telling us what happened after his death, or what happened to the body after he died. Now let's move forward and talk about the next alleged contradiction concerning the one who purchased the field. Now, there is this legal concept of metonymy, right? Now, Matthew is saying that the chief priest bought the field, and also Acts is saying that Judas purchased the field. Now we know in ancient laws and even in modern laws that a person is actually credited with an action if they provided the funds or the legal basis for it. Okay, so any action someone takes or any action which is taken, a person is credited with it if that person actually provides a legal basis for that action. Okay, so yes, the account in Matthew is saying that the chief priest actually purchased the land, that's the potter's field, with the money which Judas brought,
The
because
Crusaders in the
they
12th
saw that
century
it is
erected
not
a charnel house
suitable
over
to be
Jewish
used in
tombs.
the temple
Daily,
because
the
it is
Knights
blood money.
Hospitaller
Okay, and
buried
so they
deceased
couldn't put it
pilgrims
in the
under
church
this
coffers,
ruin.
but
The
rather
last remnant of
they
the
bought
arcade
a
still
field,
stands as a
that's the potter's
witness.
field, where they would bury strangers.
It's
And now
estimated that the
Act is
bones and
also
rubbish
saying that
underneath form
Judas
a bed of
Judas
bones of
acquired
5 meters
this field.
deep.
Now these passages
Pilgrims
still aren't
transported ship.
contradictory. As I mentioned, the legal concept of metonymy, Judas is the one who provided that money, which was the money he attained when he betrayed Jesus. And it was with that money that the chief priest, in the name of Judas, bought that potter's field. So this passage, or these two passages, are not saying that the chief priest bought the field, and this is also saying that Judas bought the field. I mean, that's basically what they are saying though, but the sequence of events should be taken note of carefully. So Matthew is saying that the chief priest bought the field with the money Judas provided. And also the account in Acts is saying that Judas acquired the field. It didn't tell us whether Judas was the one who went to purchase the potter's field physically. But Matthew is saying that the chief priest actually bought the field with the money which Judas provided. So they are not contradicting each other. What this is saying is that Judas is the one who provided that money, and it was with that money that the chief priest actually purchased the land. So these two verses are not contradictory. If I send my brother to buy food, I mean, he's the one who bought the food, but I can also say I have bought the food because I provided him with that money to buy that food. So these two verses are still not contradicting. So the chief priests, they could not legally keep that money with them because it was blood money, as I said. And so they had to transact that purchase of the potter's field in the name of Judas using those funds. So there is no way these two passages are contradictory. And to the last alleged contradiction is the name of the place, Akildama. As Matthew said, it was bought with blood money, and also Acts is saying that it was sold with Judas's blood, and that is why the place was called the field of blood, or Akildama. Now these two passages still aren't contradicting themselves. Both descriptions still hold for the place Akildama. Okay, because as Matthew said, they purchased with blood money so that strangers who died could be buried there. And also in Luke's account, we see that Judas's blood was spilled after the body hanging fell down and burst open. And so the local people, the people there, gave it the name Akildama. These two passages aren't contradicting themselves. And yes, the Bible, as we have it, is actually the true word of God which He has given to us. And so all these alleged contradictions should carefully be studied so that we will actually know that yes, what we have is the truth. That is what we must follow. Okay, so this is the discussion on the death of Judas, the purchasing of the land, and also the origin of the name Akildama. So these two passages are in no way contradicting themselves. Okay, so Matthew gave one part of the sequence of events which happened, and Luke also gave another part of the sequence of events. And as I mentioned, especially the law of metonymy, these passages do not contradict themselves. So this is actually what we have today on the account of Matthew and also the account of Luke concerning the death of Judas. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you learned a lot from this. Next week, God willing, we'll also come your way with more and we'll dive into the Bible, consider what we have in the Bible, and get to realize the truth. And I believe by the end of this program, we will all get to know that as the Bible claims to be authentic, that is the case. And the Bible does not contradict itself in no way. I'll see you next week, same time.